Hello, Codeman8 here to offer an alternative method to hovering, a method that I don't really see represented anywhere. And I think it might be useful to anyone that might be learning or trying to learn methods that maybe they tried out the tutorial videos that they've seen and maybe it didn't work as well for them. That I suppose you could say that that was the case for me when I learned however long ago with the few videos that were actually out there at the time. I do recall the Steven video and also the P-Train video. I think there might have been at least another one, but I'm having a hard time recalling which one that was. But what I did get from those videos for sure was kind of the fundamentals of what's at play here. So what I actually did do was employ the Steven grip, which is what you're seeing me hold right now. Basically, it's just I basically put my index and middle finger around the cable, kind of like to kind of give it an extra, so that way there's not so much vertical movement for it to escape, and also it gives you a consistent like quick, while you're in the, you're playing the game and then you go to hover. It gives you a nice like alignment right away. But the one difference that I would say that between the Steven grip and what I do is I definitely like have more of a firm like grasp on the controller. It's definitely not too hard. I'm not like breaking the controller by any means, but like it's definitely a firm grip. And I'll get into some of the reasons why in a bit. Because now the method in which I differ from all the other videos, it seems, and all the other methods that I've seen, is what I found is a lot of people are kind of clawing over the buttons and doing this and hitting it with their nail. For me, there is no part of my nail that actually touches the button. I'm actually, think of it like more of like I'm actually using my actual fingertips on the button. I'm kind of rolling over the top of them like this. And I would say probably, at first I kind of thought it was like a 45-degree attack angle, but it's probably more of like a 15, 20 maybe. But the important thing is, I see when people do the claw grip, it's usually their index and middle finger that they're using for those two. But because I'm using my fingertips, I'm not actually like, I'm not bringing my hand like kind of in a curl like this. I'm actually like, it's still very much straight, but what I'm doing is I'm taking my thumb and I'm pulling it in, right? So because of that, I actually am using my middle finger and ring finger for the two buttons. Why? Because when you keep your hand straighter like this, you're and you put your thumb up to it like that, they basically become like an even height, right? Like they're about, like that's about equal. If I did that with my index and middle finger, that's not really even. Like it doesn't come, it's not the same. So you want a nice even pass over the buttons, right? That's kind of why I use those two fingers instead. But yeah, I do use my thumb in the middle, just like this, to give you the spacing. And of course, while you're in hover, you can kind of notice the if your fingers are too close to each other, that means your finger's never really gonna come off of the button, right? So you're gonna actually hold the dash, and that's not good. So when you start to see that happen, you need to open your fingers back up. Now, if you open them up too much, then you're gonna risk dropping down the hole, because you're gonna end up getting more than one frame of a D press on the A button. So yeah, basically I'm rolling my fingers over the button just like this from the top. Now I'm gonna go back to the grip that I was talking about. So I'm using a Steven grip, right, but with a kind of a tighter grip and a more processed grip more towards the bottom of the controller. And there's actually a very important reason why I do this, because with my fingers and being right here, the palm side and my finger side act kind of as a guardrail from letting my hand go too far left or right, and it kind of keeps it on there. If you notice, when I push out, like there's a little bit of give with my hand, right? But basically at its most, to the furthest right, my button, this finger is just straight up on the button, right? And on the other side, this finger is on the button, right? So basically, you're looking at the point in which you're real, when you're sliding over, it's that one frame that it's off the button, right? So, but the main difference between my method and the methods that I've seen is I actually use these as a guardrail to prevent my hand from going too much to the side. So that's what I do there. Let's actually see that in practice. Let's get off the menu there, and I'm just gonna, and then of course, yeah, I'm using my thumb for any kind of D-pad movement, whether it's diagonal or whatever. Like that's usually what's being done there. So let's go ahead and do it. There you go. Another thing, sometimes you might not get that hover the first time or maybe even the second time. So sometimes that's due to not having a consistent spacing. So I definitely recommend the pen cap method, at least for learning. Until I kind of I used to call this training wheels, and basically, yeah, I just kind of put it. This is obviously going to vary between different people depending on the size and thickness of your fingers and whatnot. But I tend to put this right in the first knuckle of the hand. I put it right in there, and the fattest part of the pen, right in between, or the fattest part of the pen cap. Kind of put that right in between, and I'll there you go. Yeah, so this offers more consistency. I don't really rely on it though, at least anymore. I think this is a good thing to use when you're first learning, because then you can't use that as an excuse for why you're failing the hover. I mean, this just gives you the consistent spacing, and you can adjust the space and size and like where you put the pen cap in your, along your finger and whatnot. All of that is going to vary depending on the player trying it out. But this is what offers the consistency. And then while you start to understand the actual rhythm of what you're doing, and getting that down, then you can start removing this and using your thumb instead. Now the main advantage that I see to my method is that, well, one, if you have different nail lengths, of course, nails grow at a certain pace, but you may or may not have consistent nail length at any given point. And I feel like having putting your nails in the equation, that's just going to vary your results, and it's going to also be harder to practice because you won't have the same nail length every time that you're doing these attempts. The only time that nails really come into play is if they're too long. I might actually accidentally get a menu button. I might get an X press in there, because my nail might just flip into the into the X button, and right. But yeah, that's the main difference. The caveat I would say, or maybe there's people that might not work. This method might not work for people that have clammy or just really sweaty palms, sweaty fingers. Because if your fingers are sticking on the buttons, that's definitely going to be less ideal. I know there's times where it's humid in the air around here. It's not very often, but it does happen, and I do have a tough time in certain specific situations. But I don't really see much maybe of a downside that at least exceeds the problems of nail length and how that can contribute to problems with the other method. One other really important thing that I don't really see mentioned a whole lot is when you're learning to hover, don't make it this really long, don't just say, you know what, I'm gonna sit down 4 hours today and I'm just gonna grind out hovering. I'm gonna knock it out and be done with it, and I'm gonna be a star. You can't really do that, and I'll explain why. When you're playing the game and an opportunity comes when you need to hover, every single time that happens, you are going to start that hover and you're going to want to be successful at that hover with your arm in a fresh state. Now, what do I mean by that? If your plan is to grind out hover practice for 4 hours, now granted, not only is that really extremely impractical to get that long, But you'll quickly learn when you start to hover and practice hovering that your arm's going to get really tired, whether it's your shoulder, your wrist, or whatever method that you're using to perform it. You're going to get exhausted doing it. It is very tiring, and I cannot stress this enough. But even if you do become really good at hovering, you know, with a big binge grind like that, it's not going to be good practice. And here's why: because even if you do get good at it, you're only teaching your muscle memory and your body, your movements. You're only teaching yourself how to hover when your arm is already tired. And that is not good practice. That's not going to serve you well in an actual run. Because when you go to start a hover, you are fully free, your arms, you know, fully relaxed, and you're ready. It's a fresh arm. You're ready to go. And my recommendation is, well, how do we learn it this way then? What I recommend is just tune into a Twitch stream. You know, watch a stream. You can chat with you know, just do your normal thing where you watch someone else's stream, and then for 5 minutes at a time, maybe once every 20 or so minutes, do a little small session. Do like 4 hover attempts. You know, just oh no, I fell. Okay, hold the save state. Try it again. Nope, didn't work. Okay, right, and then give it like a 20-minute break. And then, continue watching the Twitch stream that you were already watching, right? This, I feel, is the best way to learn it, because you're effectively, whatever knowledge you're gaining or things that you're noticing, like, oh, this is working, whatever things that you're teaching your muscle memory, it's all based on teaching your muscle memory based on a fresh arm state. So, with that, I think that explains the difference in the method that I use, and I hope that someone finds that useful, able to put that to good use. Good luck, gamers.